I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Janelle, could you please take roll call?
Bertle,
Here.
Bell, here, Shampoo,
Here.
and Kane, here. Onasorg and Harper excused.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Bell, second by Shampoo. All those in favor? Aye. Carried. Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. Is there anybody joining us tonight that would like to address the Plan Commission?
Oh, I need, depending on what comes up.
Well, if you want to talk about the comprehensive plan, that'll be during the public hearing, but if anybody wanted to talk about something other than that. Okay. So agenda item 4, public hearing, action as appropriate, updated 20-year comprehensive plan. So at 5:31, I will open the public hearing. And Julie, do you want to start or Sydney?
Sure, I'll just read the notice real quick. For the March 11th, 2025 public hearing. This public hearing is about adopting an updated 20-year comprehensive plan. The plan addresses how the village is to develop over the next 2 decades and includes statistical information, goals and objectives, variety of elements such as housing, transportation, and economic development. All of the information was available online at the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission website. And we also had some links elsewhere on the village website. What we do have is the planning is an update to our 2003 plan. And it includes the various elements that the statutes require that we address. We also have some maps of the future land use plan, which is usually what a lot of people are interested in. So we do have some spare maps up there that people can mark up with any changes they might want to see in the plan. This project began back in 2023, and we've been working on it for the past 2 years off and on as time has allowed. Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission has helped us with the plan. They were the lead agency. We actually had a contract with them to walk us through the planning process. So Sydney from Bay Lake is here in case we have some questions about some of the data or need some clarification on some items. Other than that, that's all staff has. Denise.
Okay. So those of you who are attending must have some interest in this document, and I'm glad that you're here. So who would like to speak first? Yes.
Right. So Bjorn Johnson for Al Johnson's, and hopefully I'm here just to correct an error based on what you guys worked on in the October 22nd meeting. But basically, I'm here for, I'll call it the Johnson Mall. So everything from this property next to Boathouse down to Skull and backward to Spring Road. And at the October meeting, from my notes at least, you guys had penciled in effectively the entire mall to be the red color, so your commercial color. So this is from the previous comprehensive plan in 2002. And this is showing what your 20-year outlook would have been, so for 2020. So ignore the pink versus red, but basically what you had in October was essentially the same as what the previous comprehensive plan was, which was basically just the whole corridor being red. Which also reflects your current zoning map, which is all B3 commercial for the whole area. So then based on what your current land use inventory is showing, it's pretty accurate for the most part as it stands right now. So basically anything that would deviate from the general commercial area is outlined pretty accurately as it stands right now for the current land use. But when it came to your meeting in October, you switched it over to red. And that's what we would prefer it to be, which is essentially the same as what the previous 20 years had for the, the 50 years. But now I see in the packet, it's back to green, which would be the woodlands, the yellow, which would be the residential, et cetera, et cetera.
What page, what,
66, the new one's on 66. And so I don't know if this is a mistake. I mean, it very well could be, but part of our Spring Road parcel here was changed to red, which does show a change from the current inventory of land uses, which was green, which is accurate. So my point is, I don't know if that's a mistake by the map drafters, but based on from my notes at your last meeting in October, the whole corridor was supposed to be red. So, I mean, that's what we want preferably. And so at the time, I just kind of penciled it in. I'm like, oh, great, red. I don't have to worry about this anymore. But then I saw in the packet, the colors had still changed. And I guess I just kind of want to know why the change was made from the October meeting, if it was a mistake or if not. Maybe it's all kind of a moot point and you just want us to write it on the map what we would prefer to change, but.
so it's not on page 66 of the comp plan.
The PDF packet, sorry.
So what page is it? What number is it?
Is it a feature land use?
Yes, it's page
Okay.
60 in the plan.
60
Yeah.
in the plan.
So Bjorn, so we're showing you, what part of it,
The backwards parts of the parcels towards Spring Road.
so you want that back road parcel? Because we show it as commercial.
Yeah, so see the little yellow dot?
Yep, this one right here.
So as it currently stands, that's accurate for the current land use inventory. But we're trying to get it switched to red.
Okay, so it's just that one parcel that you would like to.
Well, no,
It's the
probably,
whole- it's the
probably the
whole-
front one too.
Yeah, the front one
right?
also.
This one also, that would be Annika's house.
Yeah, that would be on this house.
Okay, so it's Annika's house and then this little one.
Where the old office.
Yeah, basically, in essence, we're just trying to get it to reflect the current zoning map, which is in your zoning code right now.
Yeah, and the zoning map will have to change. So,
Right.
yeah, we understand. So it's two parcels really that you're looking to
Plus,
see.
plus the green,
Three parcels actually.
plus all that green.
So it'd be the Casperton parcel, Annika's parcel, and the Spring Road parcel,
It would be all the green also,
all the green.
Which is wetland, has some wetland.
those wetlands, where the ponds are.
And the green is accurate per existing land use at the time. Or like right now as we speak, but based on your previous comprehensive plan, it had the outlook for commercial. And your current zoning map has an outlook for commercial too, so we're just trying to get it consistent in what you've had the past 20 years. So.
Okay.
But basically, just in essence, we're trying to get a red out. So change the whole thing to red. And I guess I don't know what, I can't really speak to what our little island is for our neighbors, but essentially the one B2 parcel back there. I mean, I don't know what you guys are gonna do with that. We don't have a lot of comments on that, but I don't know if this is gonna affect what you guys do with the B2 parcel, but just something to consider. But we're just seeking to get a red out for the whole area. So.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes,
Follow suit with him on the,
name and address.
Dick Dudley, 10438-10440 Orchard Drive.
Thank you.
I'll start with the B1 stuff. Do I have to recite the pages? I don't have it with me. But
No, we have that. It's on map 7.2.
Do I need to discuss that, Julie, or do you think that's taken care of?
So Mr. Devley had called about his property he had some property that has property that's currently B1, and he actually went through and had it rezoned to B1. And on the future land use map, it doesn't show up as B1. What we had done, if I remember right, is we had said, we're just gonna go all the way along the highway and make that all commercial. Which we did, but what happened is his property actually had commercial that extended beyond that into his property. I don't think it was on purpose that we didn't take that whole parcel and make it commercial. I think it was just something that was an oversight on that. So that's one of those properties. I know when we talk later under the correspondence that we had, that's when I was gonna bring up that I think that property has to go, that whole property has to go commercial. And then he also spoke to me about his farm. That is an active farm. It's the only active farm we have that I'm aware of out there. And it's also a century farm. It's it's over 100 years old. So he would like to see that not as residential, but as agriculture.
For the future land use,
Right?
okay, which you're gonna have to share with us.
Right, so, we can do that right now or when we're going through the
Do we
public
need to get
comments.
rid of all that stuff on the screen?
Oh, would someone mind just
I'll do
clicking
it
on
now.
okay? Thank you.
Janelle, can you share the map on the screen?
Sure. For some reason it went away, Julie. I have to just get it back.
Is now that I added the 5/8. And we'll s- otherwise it's the 5, the rest.
No, I was doing that, I'm just gonna have. That's right here. Yes, I'm going to. Show real quick on this map. This is existing commercial, which you'd like to see remain commercial. This is currently ag where he has the Century Farm. He'd like to see that remain agriculture. Did you see that, Ron? This is
Yeah.
current commercial and that's ag.
Okay.
This would. yeah. Commercial, so it just comes up.
Yep.
And that's where the farm is. We'd like to see agriculture. I do something. Well, Janelle can't pull that up, but,
It should be able to adjust the limit.
Well, I mean, maybe a better way of putting it, people remember it as the vacation land farm in Headingview, Carol's Corral. That's the spot, so if they don't know, just, I guess, from that map, a lot of people rode a horse or went to the petting zoo at some point in their life.
Yeah.
That's the farm.
And then, Nick also has comments about the road that goes, out towards Woodcrest or the trail, I mean. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to get through the future land use map questions first?
Okay, now it's on there.
Okay. This little piece right here is currently commercial, so this should really just come out like that. And this is the current farm. Which would, you'd like to see remain agriculture, currently agriculture.
That property line correct then, where the part of the green where it's woodlands? Yes, it is. I just want to make sure, I believe the new line is correct after we did a quick claim. The 15 acres of R2, we took 4 point some acres and added it to our farm. Then I see you guys got the green for the woodland.
I'm not, I'd have to check with the base map on that, Nick, to see if I'm guessing not, because the base maps were created probably before,
Before the quick claim.
right?
Okay, so part of the farm now is part of that green woodland, and what we did, we do plan on developing the R2. We shared some of these plans with Nate and Janelle. What I did is I took 4.8 acres and quick claimed it to my farm. So the R2 is still 10 acres, which is what it needs to be. So technically the farm isn't on your map, it's only showing 35 acres instead of 39.86 acres or something like that. So we put it back to an original 40. Am I making sense?
That's how it is on the GIS now.
Okay, all right.
So that part that you added to your current farm, what is your preference to have that part labeled, Nick?
Well, you had mentioned, and this is getting off topic, but if they're gonna push on the plan commission when we present this development plan next month with Alliance, if we go the cluster road, you said we might need more woodland to make it make sense. I took that woodland off of the development to protect it, not to develop it. That's how I look at my farm, is off limits. If we live there, we don't want to develop it. And it was also to try and dictate where the roads come and go. So I felt if I move my property line in, you guys do decide, and this is all gonna be on who buys Barber Hall's land, and I can't afford it. So assuming a developer that can afford a $10 million piece of property, they're gonna be able to do whatever they want with roads. So I moved that in 4 or 5 acres, to not only protect the woods, but to keep the road off of my farm.
And then that 10 acres that you moved in on, would your preference is to see that remain agriculture as well, right? Protect the farm,
It was 5 acres.
but is it to have that piece remain or be agriculture?
I mean, it's,
Doesn't matter.
yeah, it's not, we're not gonna farm it. It is a true wood lot. It's the old Wiltsey wood lot. And that was put there for firewood. And back when the road ran diagonal with wagons, so they could skip the hill.
Okay.
Now, when you're saying agriculture, you're really
So-
saying CS1.
Well, the land use doesn't talk CS
Okay.
agriculture or anything, it's just agriculture.
Well, that's what Mary had put in her letter.
Yeah, are letters being read?
Janelle has them and we'll read them at the
Because that
end.
more outlines our wishes to my letter, so maybe. we don't
Do you
have
want me to
double
describe
type.
what the letter is, or do you want to do it? I've summarized it.
Why don't,
I got it right here.
yeah, the committee did receive the letter. So Why don't you summarize it, Janelle?
Okay. Ms. Dudley indicates that she and her family reside at 104-308 Orchard Drive on the old vacation land farm Carroll's Corral that was owned by Willard Kramer for many years. Collectively, they own 40 acres of property that is zoned CS1, approximately 6 acres of property that is zoned B1 commercial, and 10 acres of land that is zoned R2 multiple family residence. Over the last 10 years, she and her husband have made a number of renovations to their farmhouse, the barn, the garage, and other outbuildings, and they have also planted trees. They have a large garden and raised chickens, and in light of that fact, they are requesting that the zoning for their farm property remain CS1. They also are requesting that the B1 designation for the portion of their property remain, and that village officials work with them as they attempt to develop their land that is zoned R2 into single-family and multifamily dwellings. They also are hopeful that village officials will work with them to find and agree upon the best route for any new walking bike paths that could impact their property in the future.
And then they did receive the full letter in the packet. So they have.
So my question is, seeing what's happened in the village the last 15 years, how much land is currently being reconfigured or thought of as moving to, from countryside or woodland to a residential zoning? The village owns 90 acres, Barb 76, that's 160 some acres of what would be considered, multi-use or residential. How many people, what's the plan in the next 20 years? What's the goal for the village for residents? I mean, are we trying to double or triple the population? If we're not.
I don't think necessarily intentionally. I think we just, when we sat down and looked at what the current land use was, where we thought we'd be going in the next 20 years, it was all just a process of conversation. I don't think we specifically ever had a conversation about, you know, how many people we want to see. I think there's documentation in here that says it's 1.35 or something like that. Growth every year is what the projections are. But we never specifically had that conversation that I recollect.
I was just curious if there was a population goal in mind.
No.
Not a number.
But yeah, I guess to summarize, ideally, we would love the farm to be left alone. I brought my daughters with so they could hear this. A 20-year plan puts them at 34 and 36 years old. And I often say it that the farm won't be developed while I'm alive. So it'll be their decision, what they choose to do with the 40 acres. So the roads and stuff do have an impact, but for the sake of right now, we would love it if the farm would be left agriculture.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't understand this yet.
Yeah, that really doesn't have anything to do with the future land use map, but what they're developing. Sorry,
Yeah, go
guys.
ahead.
They're developing to the north of that,
Here,
in here, and here, and they want
but he
to,
said multifamily. This is zoned multifamily.
well, this isn't, yeah, we'd have to look at the zoning map, but they want to put residences in here, but he wants to protect his farm. So he just has a strip along there to protect his farm.
Okay.
Essentially, Barbara Hall has an easement, 66 foot wide that comes through the woods and then goes out to Woodcrest. And I've been in communication with a mutual attorney. That is my motivation to develop, is so I can control where the road goes. So I feel like I mean, sure, financially it'll work for us too, but if I can get a development approved, which we will, on that 10 acres, then we can set where a road will come in off of Woodcrest. And I don't believe that the best spot is to come from Plateau straight up. Not only is that where all the good trees are, but there's a rock wall there. And I see what people do on straightaways. They go, if it's 35, they do 60, you know, so why not offset it? And again, off topic, but bring the road in somewhere else on Barbara's property from Woodcrest it's inevitable. Like I said, I can't afford to buy it to protect it. Once she set the price, I knew what was gonna happen. So I had to make decisions for my family and for the property to protect and give us privacy that we've become accustomed to.
Sure, just. I think you know this already, Nick, but maybe for others that don't. Even when we have roads proposed or even on our official roadmap, it does not necessarily mean that that is where a road will be placed. It is from point A to point B, there has to be a connection. We just happen to draw a straight line. So it can meander, it can zigzag, it can do lots of things, but just because we draw a straight line does not mean that that is where a road will be.
Life taught me a valuable lesson. I think when we bought the farm in 14 and Garrett's apartments weren't across the street and everything was just farm field, I, not in my wildest dreams, thought that this would even matter 10 years later, but it does at this point, I guess, to have to talk about road placements where there is nothing because there's active buyers and sellers all around that piece of property essentially. So I mean, I see it happening in the next couple of years where there will be real roads coming in and touching where like I said, I never in my wildest dreams did I think 10 years ago that was even a possibility with how the village looked then.
Right.
You know, and I get that they're flexible, but it's happening.
Yeah.
It's active.
Plan commission good with that change?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah, please.
Louise Housen, 10637 Westwood, Sister Bay. So on the future land use map and in the text that accompanies it, it says to accommodate the needed housing. The plan eliminates 152 acres of forested land and 142 acres of natural areas. And a good chunk of that is what used to be the golf course, which had been on the current map is a natural area. And that golf course is 48 acres. And there's also a lot of land behind it that is currently woodland. And so essentially from where you can see it on the map, but from where Little Sister Resort was, all the way over, wherever there was woodlands or wherever there was natural areas, has all been changed to residential. And I don't know if there's been a conversation with them about the golf course or with the condos that are around, you know, making this change. So I just wondered, and full disclosure, our home backs up to the golf course. I doubt I'll be living there when any of this happens, by the way. But it's a lot. So, I just thought I would call it out, that's all.
We did not have any discussions with the current owners of the property. We did specifically talk about how we would deal with that. I think it's when you quote those numbers on where we're changing, you know, natural or open space or woodlands or whatever, it's a little bit deceiving because even though we're saying in the future, residential could go there, there's still criteria of open space and natural areas. And so I think it lends itself to a negative aspect, like it's going to be an urban area, and that's not the case.
No, it's residential, but I'm just reading it from the land use plan that,
Right.
or from the comprehensive plan that we're gonna approve.
Right. So you don't think that should be residential?
No, we don't.
And what do you think?
Well, it's currently, and I don't know again what they want to do with it. I don't know if anybody's, I'm looking at it every day. But, right now, I don't think it's been a golf course for 6 or 7 years. And could never be again, you know, because they let it go. But right now, it's the best word to use, grown in, for lack of a better word. But there are a lot of people that walk it, because she lets, you can walk it, she lets you walk it, or lets, I don't, but other people do. And so there's trees that are starting to grow, there's grasses that grow. I'm not sure what else is in it, I'm not a person that would recognize that.
Maybe planted a lot more trees in there.
Well, Jeff Lutzy and his group plant trees there every year, that's true. So I just think the only piece of, a structure that's on there is, Diane's house, where she currently lives. So other than that, I think it's great, and it'd be great to figure out whether Diane and her son or something else that they hold on to it. I don't know about, because some of the other things that are considered right now forested are on the water. So, and those have been, designated as residential, so I don't even know if that can really even happen.
So one of the concerns we had with this property when we looked at it was, you know, if you leave it, open space, they're never gonna be able to develop it at all with anything. And we knew there was some interest from developers during times that do want to see that property developed. So on the future land use, it was labeled residential. You know, we don't have it as, we didn't separate multifamily, single family, that's at a later date when they do the zoning maps. But it was like, yes, over the next 20 years, this piece of property probably will go residential.
But you haven't talked to the owners about that?
What we did was we sent a copy of the notice and link to the map to every single property owner in the village of Cicerre. So they did get a copy of it.
And it
Diane
would
does
have,
not have the ability.
it would have to be, rezoned anyway.
Right.
We don't, and it may sound strange or not, I guess, depending upon your perspective. But for a future land use, we don't necessarily have to have the okay from the current owner saying we agree or we disagree. If we get input, that's great. But to kind of reference what Julie was saying, if we left it a woodlands for nothing to be able to happen for the next 20 years, it kind of renders their property at no value if you can't do anything to it. And if they choose not to do anything, or the next person who owns that property chooses to leave a large portion of it in woodlands or natural space, that's great. But if we would do that, we could also, it could backfire on the village saying, well, you're rendering my property with no value because we can't do anything with it.
You have the front of it that faces 42 is commercial.
Right.
So I'm assuming that's the hotel. No, it's not. No, it's commercial. That's right now. Nothing.
There's nothing on that. Previous
So that would be commercial
that I've had
development
with the
and that residential development. Okay, I'm just suggesting that, at least, I don't, those are all individual parcels that, that are converting from woodland to, residential. There's probably 30. And then as far as the golf course go, yeah, I'm just, I think that's a, natural area. If somebody wanted to buy it and develop it, as you said, they could always come and make a change on this.
Don, you're gonna have to talk a little louder.
The conversations that I have had with Diane and her son, where her son actually owns it, indicates that that's what he wants it to be. as long as he owns it. But if he hasn't responded, then, you know, obviously,
And it can be exactly what it is.
regardless of how it's owned.
So,
Thank you.
in light of what, Louis stated, do we want to change anything on that parcel as we have drawn it?
So when we drew it with the commercial on the front end of it, the concept was we would have flexibility if somebody came in there and wanted to do a development. So we wouldn't be doing any spot zoning. I guess hearing that they want to, I mean, if they want to keep it as natural area. And the reason to not leave it as natural area is to not encumber the property owner. Is really what I think, and if the property owner is not asking for it, maybe we should just leave it natural area then. And yes, this could come back and they might have to do rezoning and land use change and a lot of things to might make it a higher hurdle for something to happen on there, but maybe that's not a bad thing. It also is a tremendous amount of open area in the village. And then something, what we're tasked with is at the highest, best use of that property.
It would be great if it could always stay that, but is that the highest and best use? No. Would it be, would the interior, you know, it's kind of rectangle. You know, if the interior would stay that way, and if it was developed around the outside so that there was a lot of, open area, natural area in the center of it. You know, that would be one thing.
I think the thing that's a little bit hard here is this is step one, and there's step 3 and 4 that we also have. And what we do in step 3 and 4 has a tremendous amount of impact on what happens here. If we have this set up so it has to be cluster houses, it's going to keep a tremendous amount of natural area out there.
Right.
If we say we want this to be R3, R3 is the, yes, it's gonna have a tremendous amount of density out there. And that really changes the face of what this is, so to Lisa's point, do we want to preserve natural area? Yeah, sometimes managing that natural area is doing more to preserve it than just saying, no, we want to keep this as natural area as long as possible.
Please, can I ask just one more question?
Sure.
So it looks like we're doing this based on the housing needs that would from this study, which would suggest we need 334 new homes. And I don't know that we need those. And this is probably one area besides the southwest corner of the village, which was, most of which was converted from agricultural to residential. Those are the two big areas that would look like they are, yeah, those are the two big areas that are going from either agricultural or natural to residential. And I'm assuming anyway, that it's to fulfill the housing demand estimates.
It is not.
It's not, okay.
No,
Okay.
you know, kind of going back to the question that Nick was asking also, we did not take that into any consideration. We looked at the flow of, property and what makes the most sense where. And seeing that residential was all around it and B1, it was along the highway. That really was our determination, not how many housing units the study said that we may need.
Since we haven't had any input from the people, Why not just leave it the way it is? You know, natural. Or for the map.
We can.
Maybe they're okay with the map and that's why you don't have any input. I mean, maybe they're okay with.
No, Don had said that
They
they
want it
want to
matched.
keep it just the way it is, as long as they own it.
I have a question. I love it that it's all natural right now. But I'm thinking into the future. Eric, the son, owns it. What about 2-3 generations from now? What if they want to use that property for some type of small development or development? I mean, is it fair for us to say they cannot ever develop that property?
That's not what we're saying, though,
No.
Tree.
You can always come in.
They can always come in. Anything that we show on this. Anybody can come in and ask for it to be zoned something different.
They'll have to come in and go through a public hearing to amend the comprehensive plan. Because your zoning decisions have to be consistent with your comprehensive land use map. So if later somebody wants to come in and put 2 houses out there, for example, we're gonna say no. They're gonna have to come in and amend the map 7.2. Once it's amended, then they're gonna have to come in and amend the zoning map. And then they can apply for the permits. That's why. The thought we know we have sewer and water out in that area, and I think those were some of those conversations initially was. You have services out here, it's logical in 20 years, this property will be developed. Somehow, it gets. It's misleading because we're saying residential, but that could be large lot residential, that could be cluster, you know, we don't know, but. Yeah, to have it. As residential, somebody could go out there and use it for their 2 homes for their family, leave the rest natural. If you put it natural area, which would not allow a home, they're gonna have to come back and amend the comprehensive land use plan. And then rezone it, and if that's something they wanna do, that's, you know, that's up to them, that's their
It's more
choice.
hurdles and more expense.
Absolutely.
Cause I did hear, some talk that they were thinking of donating this to the land trust, and that would totally take it off of our plate if they do that.
Right.
So,
And that would be awesome.
that would be awesome. But that,
For the people in that area.
yeah, right, but I question why, if that's their intent. Why don't they do that, or why don't they tell the village they might be doing that? I mean, it's a little murky to me because Eric owns it, and he's the son and next generation, and what's really gonna happen to that property?
I think we've got. Let's leave it as is. Let's not change it. And there's gonna be a lot of things that are gonna happen. If something development happens out there, this one extra hurdle isn't gonna be significant. Maybe that extra hurdle is what pushes it toward the land trust.
As in on map 7.2 or map 7.1.
Saying the current land use, so we would,
So don't change it.
Don't change it to residential.
Right.
You agree, Ron?
Yes.
Patrice?
Yes.
That's the majority. I disagree. Okay. So that property will stay. Steve, did you have your hand? Oh, no. I can't remember. Steve, I think, had his up first.
Oh, you want me to talk now?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a couple questions on the future land use map. I also got some comments on the comprehensive plan. Do you want to do the land use first or? Talk about that kind of stuff. On our property. When we bought it, there was a plan that was shown to me by Bob Cuffman that said they wanted the area which would basically be between the Glen Lane Apartments and our lot to be all wooded. And I said, well, who decided that? He said, well, that was the village's vision, I guess, or something that they wanted. And I said, well, who's gonna plant all these trees that you wanted? He said, well, you are. I said, no, we're not gonna tear everything out and plant all these trees just because we want it. And so, basically, the front half of our lot is residential, that's the original farm buildings. And then the back half is orchard. And I had looked at a map, and I'm not even sure which one it was now, because I've looked at so many. But it had the back half of our lot, and I think Tom and Jeanette Sadler's also was shown as agricultural. Now it's basically shown as woodlands, as near as I can figure. So I guess I'm not sure what that means. And I know the question about us developing our property has come up a number of times, and we have gotten letters from private equity firms and some outfit out in Colorado that wants to build like 80 condos or something back there. And we told them, no, we're not gonna do that. And the neighbors have asked us, don't develop. My wife and I are totally in agreement with that. But I guess I'm not sure on this plan now, if it shows woodlands instead of agricultural, do we have to take our orchard trees down or what? I don't know what that means anymore.
You want me to take that?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, no, you can just keep your property exactly the way it is, right? That future land use designation is saying someday as we develop it over the next 20 years, this is the goal or the vision of how we'd like to see that area go. If it's fruit trees now, it's fruit trees now. They're just saying, when you see woodlands on a map, typically that is telling you this is an area we want to stay heavily wooded. Now, eventually, the village is gonna have to come up with a zoning map and zoning rules. What does it mean for that area? What does that mean when you're in a heavily wooded area? Is there a certain limitation on, let's say, percentage of vegetation you can remove or something? But for the purposes right now, that woodland designation is just saying this is an area, our goal is to see that remain heavily wooded. As a large mass, like that whole quadrant of the village, we would like to see stay in more of a heavier woodland state than the rest of the village.
Because right now, it is basically rows of orchard trees, but even us and Duffy's are behind us. That's not heavily wooded, I'd say sparsely wooded at best. Between us and the Glen Lane Apartments, if something grows there, and I'm throwing pine cones out there trying to get something started. If something grows up there, we're, taking care of it and letting it grow, so it forms kind of a, what are you gonna call it, a big green vegetative barrier there. Which the owners of the apartment agreed that would be a good idea too. So that's staying, but the rest of that land back there is not heavily wooded. And I guess when you say heavily wooded, my impression of that is, well, we have lots of oak trees and maple trees and, all that kind of, we have to walk between the trees just to get to a straight line. That's not what's there now though, so I guess that maybe we can just keep going with what we've got and.
Yeah,
orchard trees that can serve
absolutely.
wood.
Yeah. And trees just grow out of nowhere. So in 20 years, it could be a lot more wooded than it is right now, just
Unless you mow,
by nature.
they mow a lot.
Pardon?
What if they want to mow it? To keep it from growing up, is that okay?
Well, they own the property, so I guess they would have the right to do that.
and we're not gonna let them go out there and clear a bunch of trees that are there already though, because that would violate a tree clearing rule that we currently have on the books.
And we don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
And we do mow the rows between the orchard too, so that's for a whole bunch of reasons, trying to get milkweed to grow so the butterflies have something to eat, things like that. Also for erosion control, because that ground back there is highly erodible, so we found that out the hard way.
Which is also, Steve, one of the reasons why the commission, I think, veered away from saying this is agriculture, because it's really not the best agricultural land for farming, according to the maps that we had all reviewed. It was more suited for woodland. So, I mean, it can, but like you said, it can continue to be farmed right now. It's just that it's not an area they think in 20 years will be farmland. It'll be more for used as a woodland.
Because we have no plans to like plow it up and till it and plant like row crops or anything like that, so it's just what's there would stay there. You want me to go through my comments on the comprehensive plan now, or?
I have one related to that.
Sure, Don. If we're still on the map,
I'm on the map. I'm that little yellow square in the middle of all the woodlands.
yeah,
Does that mean that when my kids get the property, that they could zone it residential because it would still be contiguous to something that's now residential?
So again, this isn't a zoning map, it's a future land use map. But let's just say this was a zoning map, okay? And yeah, there's a little yellow square out there because there's a house sitting out there, we know that. And let's say it's zoned residential and somebody wanted to take the property adjacent to that and rezone it residential, that is something they can apply for anything, nobody can deny them an application to rezone it. Would that work in their favor? Maybe, maybe it's not wooded at that time.
I'm only
Adjacent
asking
property.
so that I find out what their options are for the future.
Yeah, it's difficult to say because we don't know what the rules are gonna be then though. But usually if you have residential property and you're adjacent to residential property and your property is suited for residential, it makes it an easier process to rezone it. Now, again, they're gonna have to go through and change the land use map and then go through that rezoning.
that good enough answer, Don?
I guess it's as good as you get.
Okay.
Probably not gonna happen anyway, but
Yes, sir.
As long as we're on the map, I'm John Lexstein from Hidden Maples on Vineyard. Julie, you and I had email conversation
Sure.
about Applewood Road from Villa Terrace, just south of Villa Terrace to the end of that road. And I think we determined that Hidden Maples owns that stretch of road.
I think it's half of that road, right? I couldn't remember, you own, yeah, there's a stretch of Applewood that is actually owned by the condo.
And you can tell the road, was. There's a different color asphalt. Where the village owns and then where Hidden Maples owns. You can see that was paved by us. And I was just concerned that in hearing and reading some stuff about trails, sidewalks and all that kind of stuff, if there's still any plan to throw a trail through that area, which then I think would basically end up going through their property if it continues on from Applewood Road.
Yeah, come on to our, firehouse.
So what John is referring to, I think, is map. Page 29 of the plan. Which is map 4.3. And we show a proposed multi-use pedestrian trail going across the north part of the Dudley property. And then it shows it going north to Applewood Road.
Right.
Over the private road, basically, that the condo owns.
Right. If, I know that when the village takes over, if it wants to take over a road. Or have the road sold to them. You don't accept 20-foot wide roads. Right? You would prefer them to be 30 feet wide.
It depends, but we, so. It depends on the amount of traffic that's gonna be on that road, right? Most highways are gonna be 66 feet wide. We prefer 50-foot wide. The land division code has different widths in there that you want. So, yeah, ideally it'd be wider than 33 feet.
Yeah, and that would cut into some of the tree plantings that we have along Applewood Road to shield the condominiums from that road.
Keep in mind though, John, or when we say that's how wide it is, that's the right of way. That doesn't really mean that's how wide the road bed is, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so.
So is that plan for trails still in place?
Well, they're looking at it tonight. I mean, this is a new map. The way I view this, or the way I would interpret it, is if Applewood were ever extended south, this is telling me they want to see a sidewalk along there. That's what that would tell me if I was interpreting this map.
Even though they plan on putting the sidewalk all along 57, the north one?
I think it's gonna depend if it connects back over to Woodcrest. Really, the point of it is to get a connection from there over to Woodcrest. And if you can get something that's not used by cars as well, you know, bifurcation of that traffic, that makes it a lot safer. I think I wouldn't get too hung up on the exact path this is going, because I can look here right now and it does not make sense to run it through the middle of Nick's 40 acres. I mean, like, the property line has changed, so it's the concept of connecting the 2 points that we're looking at, not necessarily that exact path.
Okay. So how do I stay informed in the future on what the real plan will be, I guess?
Have you signed up with the village to get out the
Yeah,
packets?
I get everything, yeah.
And I think if there was to be some kind of large project, you would be, that would have to, either go to public hearing or something of that nature, you would be most likely notified.
Right, and I can't speak of my successors, the people that come after me. I just know that the projects I've worked on so far, like the Highway 57 trail, we did send letters to every single property owner. I know, we have a stack of letters ready to go on the Mill Road project, because as soon as we know the date they're gonna start engineering, we're notifying all those people in that area. I would hope that whoever works here, when that happens, that they would do the same. I mean, it's only the right thing or the courteous thing to do is to notify people, hey, this is what we're proposing for your area. It's just like this map or this plan. That's why we sent that card out, like, hey, everybody, we're doing something, take a look at it, let us know your thoughts. Especially on a trail like that.
I think Scandinavian Lodge would need to know about it as well.
Yeah, I cannot imagine the village would just go and invest all that money and not tell people, because if they object and it doesn't go through, you've wasted that money. So I would think, and in their early planning processes, I would have hoped the village would notify those people that that's what they're talking about or planning to do.
By every resident in development, or control the board members, or
So it would go by the tax parcel, because we don't, we go by tax parcel, so when we see who owns property, that's where we send the letters to. Because sometimes you don't know who's really living in an area, so to play it safe, you do the legal address on file, which is the tax part, whoever has that tax parcel number. So if that part, so it depends who's on the legal, where the tax bills are from.
that's a good question. I mean, when it was built, there was one, but it's been finished for at least 10 to 15 years. I mean, we're all individual. Everyone
Right.
pays their own individual taxes.
And so every individual person would get a letter.
Anybody who's got a unit would get a letter.
Does anyone else have a question on the map? Yes, Don.
And the road that runs from, Fieldcrest Road back to my property line is called Fieldcrest Lane. And there's a sign there that says Fieldcrest Lane. But the village refuses to help me maintain that. It's my responsibility to do that without their help.
I thought we helped you with a whole bunch of gravel the other year.
That was the other year. That's changed. It was refused when I asked for some help the last time because it's not a regular road yet. But
Is
it's
it-
on the map with a street sign, and I don't really find it. I mean, need to have them, anything, what I would like would be for them to help me with the cost of maintaining that part of the road.
Don, is it a public road?
I don't know. It's on the map and then there's a street sign now, it indicates that it probably is.
We do show all roads on here, whether they're public or private. If you remember, check with me tomorrow, I can check and let you know if it's public or private. If it's a private road, we can't expend public dollars on it, of course. If it's a public road, we could put it in our budget and our plan as one of the roads we can address in the future, if it's a public road.
But we
I
have
remember
never
right,
allowed a
it's-
gravel public road, so it has to be private.
I think it's a private road.
Yeah, I think it's a private road. I know when I'm looking at the map, I see Chalet Roads on here. That's a private road.
Do I need to repay all those years that they helped me maintain it? How
Yes,
much do I owe the village?
Your dedication to this committee for decades, I think you're good, Doug. Anything else on the land use map? Okay, we can move on to any other sections, Steve.
Um,
Can you tell us what page you're referencing?
yeah, I've got a copy of my notes for Janelle too, to help her with her minutes. I've actually read through the entire comprehensive plan, some places 3 times, trying to figure out what some of the stuff meant. And I guess in some ways, I'm a little bit of a loss because I wasn't part of the discussion for the original comprehensive plan 20 years ago. So I'll give you my thoughts, at least, or my comments from just reading through it now, kind of at a first time. Population projections, page 6. The plan says the projections indicate that the village will experience an overall growth of 23% or 261 people between 2020 and 2050. The village must plan for this growth and ensure that infrastructure is adequate to service the population. My comment is I'm always skeptical of population projections since having been around for a long time, they always seem to assume nothing in the past will change going forward. For example, with so many village residents over the age of 65 and nothing in place to accommodate aging, it would seem realistic to assume that the increase in the younger population will be offset by more and more of the older population leaving. And then bigger question for the younger population to me is, can people afford to move into the village, or most likely will they be able to afford to stay here? Doesn't seem to quite address that. And that kind of caught my eye with a number of these projections, because in finance, they always talk about a dark swan sailing through the financial community. Well, we have the same thing going on a lot of times with urban planning too, where things were totally unexpected, whether it's brownfields or TIF districts or whatever, come in and everything changes. So I guess I'm not real, I would put a lot of money, I guess, in whether that's gonna really grow. I mean, you guys are the ones that have been here a lot longer than me, so. And somebody obviously came up with that number, and I'm not sure there really isn't any explanation of where that number came from. Want to go on, or?
Please do.
Sure. Under housing units on page 7, it says of the 528 occupied housing units, 45% are owner occupied units, while 65% are rental occupied.
Okay, is it page 7 of the packet or 7 of the plan?
7 of the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Fine.
You guys sent me a link to the plan, so that's what I used with the comments. If only 238 out of 528 houses are owner occupied, this would seem to leave few residents willing to support long-term investment in the future of the village, since a renter's interest is month to month, not 40 years. Years ago, the city of Denver had this issue and could not even get a referendum passed to fix a failing sewer system because so many residents did not see themselves staying there long-term. They actually had a main sewer that got plugged and collapsed on a main drag in Denver, and they were pumping sewage out of one manhole, down the street through pipes, and into another manhole where they could resume transmitting it to the treatment plant. And I was just out there as a guest at the time, but I was just surprised that you can't even get anybody to pass a referendum for this, and the answer was no. Because there's too many people that don't view themselves as long-term residents. They don't want to invest 40 years in a sewer system if they're only going to be there for like 5 or 10 years. So that kind of caught my eye on this too. Age of housing, page 8. According to 2022 ACS estimates, 150 homes have been added to the housing stock since the year 2000. 23% of the owner-occupied housing was built between 2010 and 2019. Thought that occurred to me was how many of these new quote-unquote homes were the result of tearing down an existing home to build a new larger home. This not only eliminates affordable housing and raises the median home price, but it also consumes building materials without an increase in housing units. Contractors I have spoken to say this is becoming commonplace, and they actually said it in the village too. They prefer to starter castle, mega mansions and stuff like that. Housing affordability, page 10.
Can I interrupt you for a
Oh,
moment?
sure.
I mean, you're not asking us to change anything.
Yes, what I'm just doing is providing my comments because the email I got said we'd like the comments for the comprehensive plan, so that's what I came up with.
Okay.
So can I just answer that question there? When the village has to fill out the data about the new homes in the community, they also have to indicate if homes were removed. So it is accounting for the ones that are taken down. So just had to comment on that.
Oh, okay, so that is part of that number? The one
Yeah,
that-
it's a pretty, yeah, these numbers, you know, all the projections, all the numbers and everything, they're coming from either the state or the federal government. And like the state gets data from the village on the number of homes and all that other stuff, so it's pretty accurate reporting, or as close as it can be, based on the data we have, so.
All right, moving on, housing affordability, page 10. Affordable housing is generally defined as housing in which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of gross income for housing costs, including rent, mortgage, and utilities. Mortgage companies I have dealt with also include insurance of the housing cost, and it's also a condition of the mortgage. I guess I was surprised that wasn't in here. Regional employment projections. The statistics don't seem to consider the present shortage of employees in occupations such as truck drivers, construction trades, mechanics, and healthcare. Are the projected numbers how many people are needed or how many people are expected in the occupation? Also, I'm not sure just how relevant regional statistics are to Sister Bay, because Sister Bay seems to have a lot of things that are very unique, being a destination tourist area compared to the whole northeast part of Wisconsin. It's also very hard when I was reading through this to try and figure out what occupations we're talking about, because some of these I didn't even recognize, but they have, I forget what some of them were, but some of them don't even, I couldn't place that to an actual occupation, so I'll just let you know.
It's their criteria. It's what they call it, and we have to use the same.
Oh, okay. Do they know what occupations they're talking about? Hopefully. Under strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. Active.
On
government-
what page?
Oh, I'm sorry, 22. It says active government and an abundance of planned projects is a strength. I would agree, an active government should be a good thing. I think Sister Bay does have an active government, but because of planned projects, I thought that struck really odd. To me, the bigger question is, does the community support these projects? Because if they don't support the projects, I'm not sure that's a strength. Another strength was night sky friendly community with minimal light intrusion. Considering Newport State Park may lose its dark sky rating, is this a strength? Sister Bay does not seem to limit or seek to promote limiting night lighting. A night sky friendly community does not require lighting of streets and residential neighborhoods. This not only lights up the night sky, it also adds to the monthly village electric bill. And there are whole communities or cities in southeastern Wisconsin where when you look at them, the common council will say, well, it's because we're trying to cut costs. But basically in residential areas, there may be lights at major intersections, but everything else is dark. There's no sidewalks, it's a 20-foot wide asphalt road, and everything else is dark, and they use drainage ditches for moving stormwater.
Steve, the plan commission has discussed more night sky lighting, night sky friendly lighting. And I've actually been working with Brian Groovy from Newport State Park, so I think you'll be happy to see that come forward when it does. Maybe you can have some more to add to that then.
And then under weaknesses, it says congested downtown area during summer. This would seem to be a good thing for business and a strength since uncongested downtown in Sister Bay is called winter. Anybody looking forward to a winter is a good business opportunity.
But they have to, yeah, are you gonna do the whole 114 pages?
Well, got about-
You got 4 or 5 more pages to go.
I actually read the whole thing. I gave it quite a bit of time. For congested downtown, I mean, I've been in areas, even kind of like living there in like Park City, back in Wyoming, Lake Tahoe, California. And when you go there during a peak ski season, you expect the place to be crowded as heck. Even some of the comments here about, you didn't like this congested downtown thing, seems a little weird if it's peak tourist season. I think that's part of the experience. Bicycle and pedestrian network, page 20, opportunities, page 22. The Northeast Technical College Vocational Training Facility, isn't that an opportunity?
Steve, if you, do you have all that typed up, you
Yeah.
said? So what we're doing is we're taking comments, because it's written, maybe we can take it as a written correspondence. The plan commission does have to discuss this briefly next week. They're gonna mull everything over this week, and then at next week's meeting, they actually decide if they're gonna pass the resolution. Changes to like the map and actual content or changes people have, those we'd want today, because we're gonna have to get that to the Sydney at Bay Lake to make the changes. But general comments, and some of yours are very interesting, I think maybe would be better off as a correspondence that they can sit there and read through.
That'd be fine.
Would that make sense? That's
I've got
because
a
it
copy
sounds,
for you and Jeanette.
okay. Why don't we do that and we'll send that out to the plan commission, because a lot of what you're saying, I think really needs some thought, and just kind of like, yeah, why are we doing it, But if you have a change to something, maybe we could look at that right now.
I don't know if I've got anything that would actually call a change.
Okay. Well, why don't you get me the letter and we'll actually send it out to the plan commission tomorrow morning. So they have time to look it over and look through all that, because it sounds like you put a lot of work into it, like there's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, and I think some of these could be changes, maybe they should be, but I wouldn't want to just say, well, you should change it, and then you go do it. I don't think you guys should think about it too and say that that made sense to you about that kind of thing.
Sure.
You
Why don't you give that to me and I'll make sure that it goes to the whole plan commission. I'm gonna quick scan it too while others are talking to just see if there's some red flag I think we need to pull over right away.
Yes, John.
John McMurray on Forest Lane in Sister Bay. Steve brought up an interesting, I guess it's part of the plan to talk about road use and traffic. And you're talking about individual parcels. But I look at the traffic problem we have in summer or opportunity, whatever you want to call it. Have we had a traffic study done here ever?
Yes,
How long ago?
long time,
That was,
not since we boomed. Not so, no,
No,
that was Zeke, I think Zeke did one because they had the sensor up on top of the hill. I want to say it was 2017-ish.
they had town encounters on the streets.
But that's not a traffic study.
That's not a traffic study. We did discuss having a traffic study, I think it was last year. I think the Parks Committee discussed one.
oh,
At
for
Mill.
Mill, and
And-
the price, we decided not to do it because it was so expensive, just for that area.
Right. It was pretty expensive.
Well, I look at the 57-42 interchange there, where 57 stops. People joke about not being able to take a left turn in Sister Bay from Mill Road or from ZZ. It's in summer, it's difficult to do that. And you talk about the intersection coming from Little Sister, should that property ever be developed. You're going to have to look at reducing the speed limit on that hill, for example, where it's 45 going into 35. That with more traffic, that could be a dangerous situation. And they talk about that, the bicycle traffic lane, there was some talk in the past about bringing bicycles down the big hills and things like that and running alongside the major highways. I don't think that's a great idea. I would recommend maybe doing back roads for the connections. You don't want to put 6 and 8-year-old kids on Highway 42.
That was gonna be separated entirely from the road. So it's not actually part of the, there's a lot of reasons why you want it independent from the road, though. There's a lot, safety is one, but also monetarily.
Well, but the traffic study is really what I'm aiming at there, because it's traffic flow, we're a state highway. We don't like, it shouldn't be like Traverse City where it's 45 going through business districts. But I think that's something you should be considered in the plan, other than just housing and zoning. You have to look forward, and you can't, okay, the question is, how do you plan for that? When are you gonna have to make improvements or add roads? So that's my point, because I think people avoid Sister Bay in the summer because it's a bottleneck. That's great, and everybody can check out all the businesses, but for traffic flow, it's a headache.
I know the Plan Commission has talked about in the past that there are certain areas in the village as they get developed, they're gonna need an actual traffic impact analysis study on them to see what should be going on. And we actually discussed this with an apartment building last year, saying, hey, we don't think it's right, all that traffic be going out here. We gotta look at other ways to funnel traffic. So it is something I know in my opinion, the Plan Commission is aware of. I think there's some areas that are definitely worse, but yeah, that whole transportation planning element, we don't want to be in a situation where you do a project here and it's causing problems over here. Because we see that too often. On Highway 42, thank God, I think there's a really good relationship with the DOT where they'll work with us to look at what the impacts of the traffic, developing some of these larger sites. So something definitely to keep on the Plan Commission about, make sure people don't forget, right? To make sure that's happening.
Also, the majority, if not all of that 45-mile-an-hour speed zone is actually in the town of Liberty Grove. Just a little bit is actually in the village.
That's right.
And we did have the study on 42 where we could not, this 57,
Yeah.
excuse me. The state would not let us lower the speed limit.
That was last year too. We haven't come on into, we wanted to see if we could lower the speed limit on 57, like in front of like 1211 and that area in there. And they did the study, they did it for free. And they came back and said, no, it doesn't warrant lowering the speed limit. So it's something we're watching. I think you're doing a good job on that. And paying attention to it. More development definitely could cause more problems. So.
You don't think about it much, but there's actually a piece of Liberty Grove that sits between Sister Bay and Ephraim. And that's actually why you go from 40-mile-an-hour speed limit to 45 to 35. The 35 is actually within the village, the 40 is within the village of Eagle.
Is there anything else anybody would like to say? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Michelle Laurie. I'm from the Medora County Economic Development Corporation. So I'm at 185 East Walnut Street in Sturgeon Bay. And I just wanted to say, I was looking over just some comments, looking over the economic development chapter, of course, and there are things in here that are very unique to Sister Bay, of course. With some of that are the envy of other communities in Door County, right? So you've got a majority of water and sewer in your area to be able to develop. So that's the envy of a lot of communities nearby. But you know, obviously some of the same things that we see, and we're doing our countywide strategic plan right now for the next 3 years, and some of the same strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats throughout. I think, you know, looking at this regionally and countywide is important as well. So I'm glad that you did that. I think it's really important because you're not an island, right? We need to look at everything as what you can draw from other communities and what we can work on together. And so I just wanted to say, you know, that we're happy to work and see some of these things in the plan for your objectives, talking about workforce training programs, talking about the trades and things we're all working on together. So we'd be glad to be partners. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I had a question, but really for Sydney, is she on?
She is,
Can you hear me?
if you talk louder.
I'm sorry. Sydney, hi, this is Louise Housen. I'm at 10637 Westwood Drive in Sister Bay. I'm not sure, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
I certainly can.
Okay, I'm loud again.
Okay, so, I'm gonna use the section on short-term rentals. I'm looking at that in the
What
second.
page, Louise?
Yeah, it's page 8 in the printed one, but that's wrong, so hold on a minute. We had different one.
Page 12 of the PDF.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I think that in the second paragraph, you give the DCTZ's total number of rentable units and so forth.
Mhm.
What you mean to say is rentable nights.
Oh, okay.
That's not, we don't have 14,000 units.
Right. Thank
Look at that- Well, when you look at that report, it's deceiving. And so, I just wanted to mention that because when you use that report, they don't cum it. They can't. It's month to month, you know?
Mhm.
And so our average daily rate is actually $231.50.
Okay.
And so what I would do, like for future things, and if you're doing it for another community as well, Juliana Beam, who is the administrator for the DCTZ, is very good. And she can pull reports for you or anything that you would need for that, because those reports can be confusing.
Yes.
Yes, and they will, for some reason, they only do not only, but May of mid-year, May is when they publish a comprehensive recap by municipality of short-term rentals broken out by category. That's it. So we won't get that again until May of 25. However, if you want that, Juliana can help you with that. But if, in terms of what's available in the meeting packet or something like that, it's done in May of 20, it'll be done in May of 25.
Okay.
So, an FYI.
Okay, I still can't find this. What page?
You're on page 12. I'm looking at it, the PDF online. I'm looking at the section that says short-term rentals. This is figure 2.9, well. the
Page
figure
8.
that I'm not using.
Page 8. Thank you.
It's 8, I just looked at the PDF, I'm really sorry. But Denise, if you look at the second paragraph, the 14,206 is rentable nights available.
Got it.
Because when they publish the two reports, they publish, room tax, revenue, but then they have a separate report that shows you room tax revenue. They show you how many units are available. That's deceiving. It is not units that are available, it's nights. then they show you the average, what your occupancy rate is and what, your average daily rate is for the year.
Okay, so units is wrong.
Units, it should be rentable units, rentable nights.
Nights, okay,
Correct.
and the 15% is wrong?
I think that's incorrect, yeah, I'm gonna have to call Juliana because gonna have to calculate that for me, because you can't average percentages.
Okay,
And then the average daily rate is actually $231.50.
So this came from the tourism zone. Sydney, do you know, oh, it's through the end of 2024.
Mhm.
And that's for my year, so.
Yeah, I'll double check all of that. You're right, Louise, the reports are pretty confusing and obviously I definitely should have caught the units versus nights, but I can look into that and then I can contact Juliana as well and see if, she can just verify whatever I come up with.
He's a great gal. And then, the other thing that I was gonna point out, and this is what might have made it confusing for some of the people in the audience. Okay, now I'm on, okay, somebody's gonna have to tell me what page this is. So I'm on housing characteristics, housing units. I'm on page 7.
No, it's page 9.
No, I'm on page 9. My PDFs are run. So I think what makes it confusing for folks, and I think I understand why you do this, is you separate occupied units, housing units from vacant housing units, right? So when somebody reads that 55% of occupied units, they might read just housing units are 45% are owner occupied and 5% are renter occupied. That's what is occupied, right?
Mhm.
You move down to vacant housing units. What you're saying is, if you look under seasonal housing, and this is important, it is important to note that the data considers seasonal homes to be vacant housing units. And they aren't. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So that can skew someone's view. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. So yeah, you guys can still hear me. So all of that data comes specifically from the US Census Bureau and they classify it as vacant. So if you were to pull up any report on housing, it's going to say, there's this many housing units that are occupied and it might not even break out like renter occupied or owner occupied. And then directly below that, it's going to say, this many are vacant. And you really kind of have to do a deep dive and dive into a different report that they have to figure out what they're classifying vacant housing as. So we just try to remain consistent with the data that there is. But yeah, I was trying to lay out the section so that it would be clear because it can get pretty confusing. So if you have any suggestions on how to make something clear for, just the general public, I would definitely welcome that.
You're going to use seasonal home owners who may not rent their homes differently. But one thing that does skew the rental piece is we have 259 apartment units. And so but those are occupied. Do you know what I mean? That's why your renter occupied number is so high as a percent occupied total.
Right.
So, and that's what it is. Okay, I mean, we have two fairly large, apartment complexes. So I just wanted to, because I know that you had some concerns, and I think part of that is how you view how they're, you can slice and dice anything any way you want, but again, the separating vacant from occupied can sometimes make it. But it's a lot of work, I know it is, and I mean, you did a great job, and God bless you for trying to figure out the DCTZ. I love them, they're a huge help, but, and Juliana can also generate some reports for you, she's terrific.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your comments.
Yes, Don.
Just a brief comment, as I see the village transitioning from full-time residents to units that are rented only part-time, we might want to think about how we're going to get people to run for the village board in the future without having anybody living here.
Thank you. I'd also like to find a solution to people who are renting our apartments and using them as vacation homes.
Yep.
I'd like to have that broader conversation at some point in time. Anything else? Steve?
I was just gonna add to when they were talking about the housing thing. When I read through it, my concern is if this is so confusing for me, I'm hoping that you guys can read this and use it as a planning document and get something out of it, because a lot of those numbers I found real confusing, especially if I was gonna do the planning. I would have no idea what some of that stuff meant.
Well, we've been dealing with it for 2 years, so yes, we have an understanding of what it all means. If we don't, we shouldn't be on this committee.
The text helps a lot, reading the text next to it. We do have other correspondence if we're ready to move on to the other public comments. Okay, so we have Steve's. And then we have the Devley one, which you already received. We have the one from Godfrey and Khan, which you received regarding Barbara Hall. So I don't know if we want to do anything with that. And then we also have the one from Paul Grossman that you received. So I'm not going to reread them. You've received them, but we do have those in case anybody wanted to do anything with those comments.
Anything in any of that correspondence that the committee wants to have a chat about?
Okay, so the only other thing I have is when Bjorn was here, we really didn't decide what we're gonna do with that property out there. We did say, you know, with Mr. Devley, keep that B1, keep it ag,
Oh, I wrote down that.
put it back the way it was.
Yeah, I have that too.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
That it should revert to B3. Is that right?
yeah.
Okay.
Even the wetland?
Well, we don't have a delineation of the wetland, do we?
I don't think it's a wetland delineation. It was just natural area, or what did we have it as? I think it was as woodlands. So take his woodlands out. We had actually we had woodlands. We had natural area on there. Because that's actually back,
No, I think the natural area stays in there, the lighter green inside the dark green on map 7.2. I think the natural area still has to stay there. But the green area that says woodland can become the red.
okay, so the green becomes the red.
That's the way I look at it, because we know that there is a pond there, so.
Okay,
So that reverts to B3.
Except the,
commercial. There's no B3, it's just commercial general.
Oh, okay.
except, see where it's lighter inside, which is the natural area, that will
Okay.
stay, but all the other dark
Okay.
green will go. to Commercial.
Okay, so the dark green goes to commercial, and then the yellow.
Monica's house and the old office facing Spring Road.
Okay.
Goes to commercial.
So we get that correct. So I'll have to give that to Sydney tomorrow. We don't want her to have to change it twice.
Okay, is there anything else from the public, or what's there anybody zooming in?
No one's got their hand raised. Did anybody want to comment that's on Zoom? If so, please raise your hand.
How many participants
It
do we
looks
have?
like Ellie's got her hand raised. Hey Ellie, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes,
Did you have your hand raised?
no, not that I did not, or try to, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else want to raise their hand or comment at all? No, you don't have it.
Okay. Then at 7:05, I'm going to close the public hearing and have conversation amongst the committee. I don't know what happened in January, but when I was rereading this over the last few days, I found some really big errors, and I don't know how I missed them the last time around, and I talked to Julie about it. So I'm gonna try to quickly as possible take you through the whole document. Okay. Some of it's typos, some of it's, but it has to be changed. We cannot, this is our public hearing. We cannot send this off to the board with some of the errors that are in here. So I am going to go by the page number of, I'm sorry, Janelle, of the comprehensive plan itself, not the page number of the packet, okay? So this would be page 3, the village history. I question the second paragraph, like many coastal communities in Door County, the village's early economy was centered around fishing, lodging, and shipbuilding. We didn't do any shipbuilding up
No
here,
shipbuilding, didn't. No,
so I think that Sturgeon Bay, other
Right.
places,
not
I think that
shipbuilding,
needs to be.
lumbering, farming. Fishing.
On page 5, which is population and age, there is a figure 2.2. It says Egg Harbor, but it doesn't say if that's the town or the village. Do we need to clarify that?
We probably should.
Okay.
That's the text, unless it says in the text.
It's almost certainly gotta be the village.
Yeah.
On page 8, we have figure 2.9 short-term rentals by zoning district. So in the pie chart, we have 5. But in the legend, we only have 4. So we're missing something. On page 9, under household characteristics, household size and families, the village is home to about 528 households and 269 families. What does that mean, Sydney? What is the difference between a household and a family? Because
So
I did not find where it told me what that difference was.
Yeah, I can just double check it on the census on their little dictionary that they have, but I believe it's households are folks that are living together, and then they don't have to be related. And then families, somehow it's classified different where obviously they're related, but I'll just look that up quick.
Okay.
Okay, so household includes all people who occupy the housing unit, can be comprised of related or unrelated individuals. A single person living alone in a house is still considered a household. And then family, it's consisting of a householder and one or more people living in the same household who are related. So that's just how they classify that. And I can send Julie the link to this little dictionary that they have, or definition book.
I think that might be helpful.
To clarify that,
Yes.
Sydney, make that as a note that to clarify. In the plan.
Sure.
On page 18, regional employment projections, it references the workforce development area, WDA, in which the village is located. But what is that area?
I think it consists of like, am I still, yep, I'm not muted. I think it consists of like 5 counties. I can define that also, who's all included in that, or, I don't know if it would be beneficial to take out some of these regional projections. You know, I heard comments kind of on both sides. But we can define that a little bit more there.
There's a map you could put in there, but for
Yeah.
space, for spacing, I think you're better off just listing them.
Mm-hmm.
Then on page 19, it talks about the Department of Workforce Development. And we're in, for the Bay Area WDA, is that still the same thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Page 21, under tourism. So it's the third paragraph where it talks about the Door County Tourism Zone Commission. And about a little more than halfway through, a sentence that reads, the county also has an 8% lodging tax that visitors must pay. Well, it's everybody that this is. And it goes on to say, when staying overnight in the county, a portion of the county's lodging tax is allocated to the Door County Community Investment Fund grant program, which annually funds projects that we're all in that. The county is not a separate 8%. Everybody pays the 8% lodging tax. So with the sentences before that and then this, it sounds like it's talking about two separate things. So that needs to be reworked.
Does that make sense, Sydney?
Yeah, yep.
Page 24. The first goal, to provide for development in the village of Sister Bay by seeking balanced economic growth in business while providing jobs for residents, increasing personal income and protecting and enhancing the village's environmental and cultural assets. Nowhere does it talk about providing housing or as one of our goals. Balanced economic growth and business while providing jobs and housing for residents, increased personal income.
I think one of the objectives, let's see, it's like the 6th objective down. It talks about workforce housing, but
Okay, that's fine. I can delete it.
okay.
Yeah, I need this kind of pen. Which I forgot at home. Oh, do you have yours?
Yes.
Good when I'm not talking, because that means I'm just scrolling through lots of pages.
Yeah, so I think that section, it's specific to economic development, so that's why it talks about the workforce housing. And then on page 11, actually, there's sections that are pertaining to like the population and housing, where it talks about encouraging housing development, this and that.
Okay, thank you, Sydney. Okay, page 44, historical and cultural resources. So the third paragraph that starts with the 1989 comprehensive plan, it is referencing the one place that we have on the National Register of Historic Places that's located at 414 Maple Drive. Okay. They no longer are 414 Maple Drive. When so this is their old number that has never been updated. And it talks about the inn uses the market as a gift shop. This is when it used to be the Maple Inn.
Okay.
Roots. They do not have a gift shop. They have a restaurant. So that needs to be updated.
The address, Sydney, is 2378 Maple Drive.
Perfect, thank you.
That might have to be updated on the register site too, or the state site. Cindy, you get that right from the state database, right?
Yes,
Or-
I do. Yeah, and I do recall it being confusing because I think there was two different sources that they had on there where they were referencing the 414 address and then also the 2378 address.
Well, the only reason why I ask is either the village or maybe the historic society can let them know the data is incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
So on page 46, under Public Works, the last paragraph, the village has plans to reconstruct the Parks Maintenance Building that is currently located at 2313 Mill Road. Well, we're doing it. Or do we still want to just say that because we're not done?
Yeah, it's not done. You know, it's hard because,
Or we should say the village is reconstructing.
yeah, because it's kind of hard, because if you remember, we started this 2 years
I
ago,
know.
so that's,
I mean, either way, I'm okay with it.
is reconstructing.
Page 47. Public safety, health and welfare. Adult care, is it called Continuum Healthcare?
I believe so.
Is Serenity Springs just their business, doing business
No, I think it's
as?
continuum. No, I think it is continuum. We would have to. That was updated. Sydney, do you know if that was updated in fall? Because I think in fall it actually became continuum. We can double check that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it says this includes Continuum Healthcare, former Skanda Village. Is it, do you not want it to say Continuum?
I think that you're saying, I think Denise, you're saying go by its street name. Or like the name that you see out on the building. Continuum Healthcare, I think, is actually the corporation that owns it.
Ah, I see. Okay.
But it's Serenity Springs. And then, is Megan with us? Or she
Yes.
just, okay. So I talked to Megan earlier, and I think, there was a lot wrong under the municipal water system, and I asked her to review it. So she is going to, any changes, that she has, she's gonna give directly to Julie, who is going to give directly to Sydney, for what is wrong in those areas, but, I'm gonna bring up what I found. Second paragraph, it talks about one of our wells is located outside the village and is operated by the town of Liberty Grove. That is not the case. The village operates that. It also says that we have 2 water towers. That is not correct. We have 1.
Yeah.
And then in the next paragraph, it says, at this time, the village and the town of Liberty Grove are working toward the establishment of a wellhead protection plan. That is not true. Sister Bay has a wellhead protection plan that we adopted many years ago. And then Megan may have more under that and sanitary and storm sewer. Electrical and natural gas, it talks about Wisconsin Public Service provides natural gas to the village. That is not true. That Northern Propane Gas Company and Lakes Gas Company maintain energy pipelines and storage, not true. And Ferrell Gas is spelled wrong. It's Ferrell.
Got it.
Page 49. Right above garbage collection and recycling, major cellular carriers provide coverage in the village. Those signal strength and service quality can vary. Coverage is generally good in the village and surrounding areas, but weaker signals, I would like to change the rest of the sentence, are experienced during crowded events and at the height of the tourist season. You, in July and August, your phone calls drop constantly.
Can we change that to poor service? Because it's, the signal isn't changing. I know that's rather semantic, but the signal itself is not changing. It's just what's behind the signal It doesn't have the capacity. It's not like
If
radio
that's
waves.
technically what it is.
Okay,
So how does it, just so we get it straight,
we either have experiences reduced service, poor service due to overcapacity.
so how should it be worded?
So, but right now it says, but weaker signal, I would say. Poor service is experienced during crowded events such as Fall Fest.
Okay, poor service. Poor service is experienced during crowded events and at that, okay.
Won't even write. I hate the way this thing changes that now I can't write on it when it saves it in this format.
Oh, because it was a PDF.
Oh, now it just wrote there. But it won't right here.
You have that issue in their PDFs, right?
Okay, page 50. Village parks and natural areas, and then we have recreational facilities.
Mhm.
It doesn't mention the 2 ball fields that we have, the soccer field.
Okay.
Denise, under education facilities, it does not mention that the Northern Door Child Care provides PK education now. They're in partnership with Gibraltar.
Wait, but what, hold that thought. Let's go to the parks one. Denise, the ball fields aren't called out because they're part of the sports complex. So you have the village parks and natural areas, that's Waterfront Park, Marina Park, the sports complex, Pebble Beach, Mill Road, those are all separate, right?
Right,
And then you get to the recreational facilities.
right,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the dog, it's calling out those
right.
items in
So
there.
it's not mentioning the Bays field, the Little League field, and the 2 soccer fields that we have. And then, in the paragraph below that, it says the village plans to expand and relocate both the dog park and community garden. I don't know that that is a true statement anymore. We talked about relocating the dog park. But I think that,
Yeah, I think since we started this, the thought was create additional community gardens.
urban gardens, that a whole different kind of garden
Right.
versus the individual garden. So
So
I think we'd like to expand and relocate the dog park and create an urban garden.
Okay.
Doing,
Oh, that's too bad.
and I try to do that.
Do you think it's the tablet rather than the battery reception? Yeah.
And then was there another comment on the childcare?
Sorry, Patricia.
Yes, so Northern Door Child Care now provides PK education at the Sister Bay Child Care Center. They're in partnership with Gibraltar Schools.
Okay.
Page 53. First paragraph, second sentence. The village faces unique opportunities and challenges tied to its natural beauty, cultural heritage. Oh, never mind, my mistake. I thought there was a typo, it's okay. Apologize. Page 54. Multifamily, 176 acres. It talks about workers in the service industry. I think it should just be changed to the workforce. Not
Yeah.
specifically to the service
Mhm.
industry. And then under commercial, it's talking about downtown. We don't have any galleries in the downtown that I'm aware of. Oh, Mill Road, never mind, okay. Don't tell Tom I said that. 56. Tax incremental districts. More than halfway through, the village has the ability to expand sewer and water to underserved, but sewer and water is currently limited in some areas. It's just a little clumsy.
Yeah, I think it should probably say to underserved areas, something like that. Okay, I'll fix that.
It could say to areas not currently serviced.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Page 64. Under Personnel Committee, the Personnel Committee considers and reviews, word just needs to be plural, reviews all matters. Page 65. Under Plan Commission, the Plan Commission shall promote the public health, safety, morals. It is not the Plan Commission's role. You cannot legislate morals. I would like that removed. Underneath that, the next bullet point, the Plan Commission consists of 7 members, 4, which must be resident members, not 3. Under TIF Joint Review Board, second bullet point, it talks about 1 trustee of the village. I think it should just talk about 1 representative from a village trustee, from Door County, Gibraltar, NWTC, and a citizen member. Not the vice president of business and finance, not the Door County administrator. It is 1 representative.
Okay.
Zoning Board of Appeals, second bullet point, consists of.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
I don't think I have anything in that appendix.
Sydney, did you catch all her comments, Denise's comments under the utility part? Cause I know I didn't get them all as she was talking. Did you get them?
Yeah, I got those, and then I believe she said that Megan was going to get me some more info on that.
Yeah, I'll type up an email with all the corrected information and send that to you tomorrow.
Awesome, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Problem. Thank you.
Except the part on the well, so, okay.
Yeah, a lot of that information was kind of like piecemealed together from like the DNR, past comprehensive plans, county plans, like the county's comp plan or hazard mitigation plan. So just based on a lot of research, and yeah, I think some of that information then is wrong on the DNR's website.
Okay.
Hey, Sydney, I see something about in the appendix. What do you like most about Sister Bay? And it's confusing. It says we have a grocery store, new clinic, layers, dentists and restaurants. That's
Lawyers.
Yeah, it says layers.
I think, but if that's how it was submitted, I think people,
Oh, that's how they wrote it.
yeah, that's how they wrote it.
Yep, usually the only thing will change in any sort of public comments is like we'll just asterisk like swear words or take them out completely. So thankfully you guys didn't have any of that. But yeah, we like to keep how people have spelled things and written things out, just as they did it.
Anybody have anything else?
Page 29, we talked about this last time, and I think Julie, you said there just wasn't the ability to change the maps at this point. But, I had requested that we don't put proposed widened shoulders on there because that's not really infrastructure. And if that's all we ask for, that's all we'll ever get. I'd asked that we do propose multi-use pedestrian trail, understanding that some of those may be widened shoulders at some point.
Yeah, at that time, we didn't know we'd be able to make changes because we're out of money, of course. And I did ask Sydney to go back and look at her maps. And she felt she had done it the way we had talked about, but if we want to change it, now is the time. I mean, we're gonna get a bill, we may as well do everything, make all the changes. So
Well, I guess I thought that
change it to.
2 times ago, I thought, I perceived there was consensus on it. Last time, I think the agreement was that yes, we wanted to do it, but it might not be able to be done.
So now we're just, a lot of changes have to be made.
You got that, Sydney?
Yeah, so you want me to remove the proposed widened shoulder and just keep anything that's currently designated as that, just to be the proposed multi-use? Okay.
So the blue hash goes away altogether, that whole line.
Got it.
Yes, correct. And then page 46 under postal service. This is something that we're gonna see for the next 20 years. I'd rather not see that last sentence on there. The village facilities plan has recommended a new post office be built next to the library at the former parks and maintenance facility site. That's not gonna happen. I think it's extraordinarily unlikely to happen, and
How do we know it's not gonna happen?
we don't know for sure, but I'd rather not see it in this document because we've already started moving away from that.
Can you just
The
say
village facilities plan has recommended, but we do have that plan.
Sure. But I
And it's
understand,
recommended and it's in the plan.
I'm requesting we take it out in one voice. If everybody else thinks we should keep it, okay.
I think because it's in the plan, it stays.
So it goes.
Most likely will never come to fruition, but it's in the plan. What you have?
That's
it. You guys?
I only have one comment,
Okay.
which I thought was, when it says, what do you think about the village's supply of the following housing types? And 25% of the people responding said that there were too many mobile homes.
And we have 0. Thank you. That's good. Ron.
There's Paul Wash's old father, Nelson's out on Old Stage.
That means people probably didn't know that we're responding, didn't know the village boundaries.
Right.
They don't know where they live.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's a good catch.
Okay. We're back. So. Thank you. Yep. Okay. So we're good moving forward. We will see this again next week.
Yeah, so Sydney will make changes, and then next Tuesday, if we're okay with those changes, we adopt it by resolution. That resolution recommends approval to the board, and then the board would adopt by ordinance. And Sydney did send me some templates for that today, I think, or yesterday, so we'll have those ready.
Okay. Matters to be placed on a future agenda. We already talked about that. For next
Yeah,
week.
so next week we have 2 applications, if we look at those, and then if I have time to complete it, we were gonna look at some R4 amendments and then the dark sky amendments.
We're also gonna discuss the comprehensive plan, right?
Yeah, the resolution.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, next meeting, next Tuesday. And we have no other business. Is there?
I move we adjourn.
Motion by Ron Kane at 7:35,
Second.
second by Sharon Poe, all in favor? Aye. Carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice night.
On that new part,
Here's Cindy.
tell him that the light on his main office is awful damn bright.
I
Why does it save my documents so